Today, we are talking about the number one mistake that you should not make if you want to get to 1 million in revenues. It's so easy to make this mistake because when you're running a small business, you need to be keeping up with customers and marketing and making new products. And you can think you're doing great because you're working so hard. So surely that's going to get you to 1 million, isn't it? But we mostly know that what got us here won't get us there. We see a lot of businesses getting to 100,000 in revenues. For women-run businesses, about 90% of women-run small businesses reach 100,000, but only 2% reach 1 million. So that's the desert to cross from 100,000 to 1 million. And most of the women who come to us are in that $100,000 to $500,000 range. So we've seen this over and over again. When they make this number one mistake, they never get to 1 million. And we don't want that to be you. So listen up. This is something that is easy to implement, but often overlooked. And the truth is, if you don't do this number one thing right, then everything else is not worth your time. You can work super hard, you can hire great people, you can have amazing marketing, you can even go live every single day on Instagram or LinkedIn like I am or wherever, and you're still not going to get to 1 million if you do this mistake. So here's the thing. When you are growing a business, there's actually 4 things you have to get right. And I'm going to cover all 4 in this video. But first, we're going to do the number 1 because that's the one you have to make sure to get right so all the others will fall into line. The number 1 mistake is something that we've seen over and over again at $1 Million Women, and I made this mistake myself. When I was growing my first company, Little Pim, which was language teaching for young children, we had so many amazing products. We had campaigns going. We were selling in schools and libraries. We were selling at Babies R Us and mass retail, Barnes & Noble. We also did licensing. So we were on fire. We thought we were doing great. But the fact is, we were making the number 1 mistake. And I didn't know it until I joined a coaching program that had me look at everything we were doing. And they said, hey, you're making this mistake. And I was able to fix it happily. And that's how we got to 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, and kept growing. And were able to raise 6 million in venture capital over the period of a few years. So here's what the coaches told me when they looked at my business. They said, you are spread way too thin. You're doing too many things for too many different channels, and you're not going to get to 1 million unless you refine your strategy. So the number 1 mistake is not having a good strategy, not having a refined strategy. Most women we talk to haven't even mapped out their strategy. They're just working super hard. I think their strategy is just work all day and all night, and hopefully I'll get to 1 million. I'm exaggerating a little, but you know who you are if you don't have a strategy. And this is where coaches and mentors and programs come in, is they help you look at your business from an objective standpoint and say, are you really focused on the right things? I'll tell you a story of someone who focused on strategy, who you all know, and it made a tremendous difference. So if you have that thing in your pocket called an iPhone, well, that's because Steve Jobs, when he took back over Apple in 1997, after he'd been gone for a while, the first thing he did when he came in was look at the strategy. He was a fan of that famous Albert Einstein quote, which you may have heard, which is, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes working on the problem and analyzing it and turning it from all the different angles like a Rubik's Cube, and only 5 minutes solving it. I'd spend 55 minutes working on the problem and 5 minutes solving it. So that is what Steve Jobs did. He looked at Apple, he looked under the hood at every single thing they were doing and said, you know what? This is way too dispersed. We need to get back to what we know how to do well. And so he cut out 70% of the products that they were selling at Apple. And apparently they were just months away from going under, like they were just running out of cash at Apple. And this one change, this one big strategy shift made all the difference. They decided to just focus on 4 things: consumer, professional, desktop, and mobile. And if you have Apple products right now, I'm sure they fall in one of those 4 categories. And that's what turned the business around. And within 1 year, by 1998, they'd made $309 million in profits and were back up to profitable. So what's your version of that in your business? How can you refine your strategy so that you're not selling to everyone? You're not launching products and doing services all over the place. You have a really dialed in strategy that makes your business scalable, profitable, and on track to hit that $1 million mark. And if you're listening going, Julia, I have no idea. I'm just working as hard as I can. I don't know what that strategy is. That's normal. I needed coaches and mentors to come in and help me find it. And this is often where entrepreneurs start seeking help. This is also why we created Million Dollar Women Accelerator, our online coaching program, where we do teach the strategy so that you can look at your strategy and decide if it needs that refining and that upgrading, which it almost always does. Because if your strategy was working, you wouldn't even need help scaling, right? You'd be at $1 million, you'd be off raising your venture capital, but usually that's where people need the most help. All right, so that's the number one thing to get right is your strategy. But what are the other three? So the 4 keys to building $1 million business are things that are, again, simple but not easy. These are things that we've watched women grapple with over the years here at Million Dollar Women and seen that if they don't get these 4 things right, they're not getting to $1 million. No way, no how. And we also interview women who've built 7- and 8-figure businesses every single month in our online community, the network. And they all agree that these are the 4 things. So the 4 things are, well, one of them is refine your strategy. But even before that, mindset, the number one thing that people work on in order to be able to do that strategy work is their mindset. And you might be thinking, well, I meditate, I do my gratitude journals, like I'm good on mindset. But the fact is your mindset determines how big you think you can go. And so if you are still running a business that's making 100,000, 200,000, really up to 500,000 or even 800,000, you probably need a mindset upgrade. I know I did when it was time to scale up Little Pim. That was my former business. I had a lot of limiting beliefs about what was possible. My parents were not entrepreneurs. They were academics. I didn't go to business school. I didn't have a finance background. I had a lot of limiting beliefs I had to work through in order to picture myself as the CEO of a multi-million-dollar business and then make the changes I needed to make. But doing that strategy work, if you haven't also worked on the mindset, it might not stick because you can know what to do and still not do it. So we now know 2 of the 4 things you have to get right. You have to have a go big mindset. You have to have the right strategy. And then the third thing is money. You got to get dialed in around money. I know a lot of women don't love the finance part of their business. That was me too when I was at Little Pim, but I managed to learn enough to be conversational, not only with my bookkeeper and accountant, but also with my investors. You don't have to be fluent. You don't have to become an accountant, but you have to get your arms around the finances of the business, right? That means understanding your P&L, your profit and loss, knowing what your margins are, sitting down once a week at least and looking at what's the cash flow in, what's the cash flow out. These are all things we teach women to do in our accelerator program, most of them for the first time. For me, it was the first time when I had to learn it on the job at Little Pim. So I'm very empathetic with people who have been what I call an ostrich. An ostrich is when you put your head in the sand, right? And go, well, maybe if I don't look at my finances, they'll just sort themselves out. I tried that at Little Pim for a little while. It did not work. It led to almost the business going under because I wasn't keeping my eye on the ball with the finances. And I don't want that to happen to you. So get your arms around the numbers. The 4th thing is team. No one has ever built a multi-million-dollar business by themselves. Your team doesn't have to be full-time employees with benefits. It could be contractors. It could be part-time people. For some people, it's just hiring a great virtual assistant or outsourcing and delegating things that are taking up too much of your time so you can scale up. So now you have a bit of a roadmap of what needs to happen in order to get to $1 million. Let's just review real quick. We want to work on the go big mindset and make sure we move any limiting beliefs out of the way. We want to refine our strategy with the help of a coach or a mentor or a program so you know you're on the right track and you're not just working, but not getting the results. You want to get your arms around the money, get your head out of the sand if you're that ostrich. And 4th, learn how to build a team. because it's the team that's going to get you to 1 million. We have such an incredible team here at Million Dollar Women, and I am so grateful for you. I know you're watching, and I hope that everybody watching this could find people as amazing to work with as I have. That is one of my favorite parts of running Million Dollar Women, is working with the incredible women and a couple of men who help us get there. We do have multiple men on our advisory council and board, and we're so grateful to all of you. But the point is, you want to find your people who are in your corner, helping to compensate for the things you're not good at, and all rowing together in the same direction to get to that $1 million mark, and then keep rowing, right? Because it doesn't stop there. All right. I hope there's something here you can use right away. And if you want help with any of this, then come check us out at Million Dollar Women. You can book a call with us. You can just go to scalewithjulia.co to book a call. And if you want to look at our accelerator program, we have enrollment is open right now. We have the fall cohort. We are filling up quickly. So don't delay. Go check out the accelerator at millionwomen.com and just go to programs. You'll click on accelerator and everything is right there. We are happy that you are on this journey with us, and it's a joy and a privilege to teach you these scaling tips that I learned the hard way by falling on my face a whole bunch of times when I was growing my business, Little Pim. But you can get there faster than I did and in much better company. I hope to see you next time here. In the meantime, stay brave and go big.